So VMS.
So this VMS switch turns on that unit in the dash.
Okay.
And if you don't have this VMS switch on, none of that auto gen stuff's going to work.
Okay.
That's why we've put the VMS switch back here.
Okay.
Also, that's why the battery usually will go bad in the PM module or TM modules, because the it's turned off all the time, and so it's relying on its battery a lot for the memories. But to get the auto gen functions to work, you got to have the switch on back here.
Okay.
That's why we've actually put that. And then that way you could go up to the dash, configure it without having the ignition key on.
Okay.
And in the on position. And then we'll scroll over to here. This is going to be tied into your brown lower 110 panel.
Okay.
And this is going to be the load shed. So right now it detects that we're hooked to a 50 amp service. If you plug in to a 30 amp or a 20 amp service, it's going to auto detect that, and it's going to go to 30. Now if you're in less than a 30, then you would hit the button to set it for 20. And then you'll get the amp meter comes on and how many amps you're actually drawing. And it monitors it, and it will shed devices as you get too high if you haven't come down and actually managed this panel yourself.
Okay.
So if you're plugged into a 20 amp service, you're going to want to turn the electric element off, at least here at the Aqua Hot. In this case, because you don't have just a regular old water heater, you can turn the electric element off to turn that draw off.
Okay.
And then that way, you know, it'll manage it for you, or you can kind of manage it some yourself. So that's how the EMS load shed works. There is a board in the very top of this that's 12 volt related that runs this and has all the relays on it for shedding that. While we're talking about this, this is going to be everything coming from your shore cord. This is everything coming out of your inverter. So these are going to be all your outlets. In the Country Coach, you have a dedicated 540 audio video circuit. Then you'll have your driver side outlets, your microwave, and then your passenger side outlets. So this is going to work whenever your inverter's on, no matter what. This is going to be all the stuff that only works when you have shore power coming into the coach.
Okay, that's great.
And then above this is going to be your 12 volt side for all your house options.
Okay.
So you're going to have your water pump here, driver's power seat, so on, different lights, air conditioner, thermostats, and what have you located in there.
Okay.
If you do have a case where your water pump doesn't want to work, and it's kind of intermittent, and you come in here and you rub these fuses and all of a sudden your water pump starts working, pull this panel out and check the back of the panel for damaged wire.
Okay.
If you do have a damaged wire, you can usually move it to a blank, or there's one of these that's not being used depending on the options of your coach, and you can move it to there. And that HWH just fired up to try to re-level, so yes, you'll want to get some squirty squirt under there and check and see if you can find those air leaks.
Okay, will do. So
yeah, now here we went from this load shed, we got the 12 volt distribution covered. We're going to go to right now the roof air conditioners / Aqua Hot and heat pump controls here. As you'll scroll through, you see furnace. Furnace is actually Aqua Hot because we don't have a diesel furnace. And then you can scroll through the different modes for what you're going to want to do. As you'll see, the number 2 is blinking, indicating which zone I'm trying to play with right now. And then you'll scroll through and you have heat pump and so on. And then back to furnace.
okay, so dry camping, full tank of diesel. We'd hit the diesel switch down here.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly. Diesel switch here, that's going to heat all your hot water to take showers. You'll pretty much be able to take a continuous shower as long as the diesel mode's on, and that will also do your front and rear zones of heat exchanger.
Okay, so diesel switch on, and then we use the furnace, right?
Yes.
We'd be running on
Yep,
furnace.
running on furnace, exactly.
Okay. And then I think you talked about a little
Yeah,
bit.
so this is going to be the thermostat for the puppy saver. A lot of
Okay.
people I've seen on the Facebook forum wonder what this is. So whenever it gets over a certain temperature, it's going to tell the generator to come on. And if you have these set also, then it's going to give power to here.
Okay.
Then you'll have your floor heat for your tile heat. In here, this is 110 off a small coaxial wire where the center element gets hot, that's embedded in the mortar of the tile in the floor there. So
Okay.
there's not actual water or anything. It draws approximately, with this many square feet of heat map, probably only 5 to 7 amps worth of draw.
Okay, you just pretty simple. We've run that. You just turn it on and set the thermostat.
Yep.
So, all right, the Xantrex.
Xantrex, just use it for the on and off button that turns the inverter on and off. It's automatically going to go into the charge mode, and then don't worry about any of the other information. It's all not going to, I mean, once it's at float charge, then you know that your batteries are full. If it's bulk charging, then you know that they're charging. Otherwise, this panel is way too hard to fumble through and try to figure out and try to ramble into a YouTube video of all the stuff that it's trying to tell you, because it's dated out.
Yeah.
And a just extremely rough operation to be able to get through. There is one thing that I will say, where it says shore cord setting here, as I scroll through these arrows, I will get to one that says shore cord power amps. So as we were talking about earlier, being on only a 20 amp service, and you're trying to charge your batteries and they're completely dead, you'll want to actually scroll back so it will only draw 10 amps, say, through that extension cord, instead of trying to draw 30 amps through that extension cord and continuously popping the breaker. And then minimum is 5 amps. And then scroll back to 30 whenever you're plugged into a 50 amp service or running off the generator.
Okay, because my home currently it's a 20 amp breaker. And so I'd want to lower that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Especially if you've went from a dry camping mode or it's sitting out and you've neglected the batteries accidentally, and then you go and plug it in, it's going to want to try to slam the batteries back full and try to draw up to 15 to 20 amps plus through that cord, and then you'll melt the end of it off. And where if you set that back, you won't have to worry about it. Of course, it's going to take it longer to do it.
Okay.
And you're going to be able to actually do it.
Okay.
And you can, some of these are still set up to turn on and off the generator through here and use the auto gen and so on, but just use it through the Silverleaf and try not to mind numb yourself on that.
Yeah. Okay.
The only thing we didn't touch for in here is going to be the HWH slide room controls. This particular coach has one power, or actually only has one. No, it has 2 rooms. So, oh yeah, my hand's covering the room select. So this, all the odds are going to be your driver's side. Your evens are going to be your passenger side. So it goes front of the coach, drivers 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
And then this is selects in between here. When you're done running the room that has the dresser in it, continue to press and hold this till you hear the high-pitched squeal, so then that way you've done the synchronization in the synchro cylinders. For the one on the bed, you can release it once it's come in, and it will probably squeal really quickly because it's come to pressure. But on the other rooms, you will want to run it for a few seconds afterwards to equalize the pressure in the synchro cylinder. You wonder, well, what's he talking about the synchro cylinder? What the synchro cylinder does is, so as the room extends and retracts, it doesn't walk funny as it's going in and out. It keeps the 2 cylinders in sync, so that way the room runs smoothly. So you have fluid going in and 2 outs out of it.
Okay.
So for these older Advantium 120 GE profiles that are in most of these coaches still, the easiest way to run them for when you're doing microwave is, of course, have just the glass tray in here when you're doing microwave. The metal is for when you're doing convection. And just smash the express button. Start hitting it like that, or you can even roll the knob.
Okay.
Then they have the off to clear button, and then they have the surface light. Under options is where you can turn the beep on and off. That's where you set your clock. You can do your clock display. You can set your time for the light that automatically comes on and off at night, and then back to the beginning again. As you can see, he's found his way through here to get the clock to set and everything. There is an owner's manual for this that has excellent recipes in the back of it.
Oh, okay.
There's some killer desserts and all kinds of stuff in the owner's manual that came with this. I used to have one in a rental house that I had that I loaded into a wood cart, so that way I could have it in the house and not load it up into take the thing out. But yeah, there's a chocolate, yeah, all kinds of stuff in here. Okay. So that's really the kind of the basic gist. It does have the preheat, and there is a manual that's very extensive for it that goes with it. But that's the simple operation of the unit.
All right, cool. Thank you.
bracket right here.
Okay.
And then you open here, you're going to see all the way on the back wall an eyelet right back in there.
Yep.
Turn the light on. And you'll hook that to there and that to there. And then you can emergency retract and suck the rooms back together.
That's what it's for.
Usually you can call me and I'll tell you what to tap on with a hammer or what to look for.
Okay.
And we can get the rooms brought back in.
Okay.
Without having to go down that.
Yeah.
Pony
I would
I've
imagine...
never had to, let's say this, I've spent hundreds of hours on the phone doing tech support. I've never had to explain how to hook that up to suck that in.
Right.
I've got the system to work for
Figured
people.
out how to...
Yes.
I can imagine that would be a challenge.
It is. You have to open some valves in the front and so forth.